Hello and welcome to another episode of Issues and Insights here with Hardin County Educational Television. My name is Megan Cable and I'm filling in for Bryce Shoemate today. Today we are welcoming Michelle Kale, who is from Casa of the Heartland. Michelle, please tell us about how you became a part of Casa of the Heartland.
Hey, so I was a teacher and I got involved with a different local CASA program down in Bowling Green. And then the executive director position in Hardin County opened up, and I, just turned in my application, and all of my experience with CASA of South Central Kentucky just really helped kind of build that foundation for, the knowledge that I needed to step in. I've always been really passionate about children. I saw firsthand teaching, some of the hardships that children often face if they don't have stability at home, and those are the children that we work with at Casa of the Heartland. So I was really excited to have the opportunity to come in as executive director.
Awesome. And I feel like that groundwork of actually being in the classroom and being around the kids gives you the knowledge of how to help them in this new position, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think that, a lot of times when people think about the issues that children face, they might think about them in isolation, but, being in the classroom definitely, I could see how things going on at home would impact their education, their extracurriculars, their peer relationships, things like that. And so, all we really want at CASA is for these children to achieve some type of permanent placement. We always hope that can be with their natural parents, but, we just want them to have a permanent place and to be able to, to go to school and not have to worry about, what things are going to be like at home, and to be able to make friends and join sports and things like that, and just have, like a normal, happy childhood, and go on and be successful in life.
Awesome. And what are those services that CASA provides to our kids here?
So CASA is court-appointed special advocates, and what we do is recruit and train community volunteers who then advocate for the best interests of the children in the courtroom. And so our CASA volunteers meet with these children on a regular basis, meet with their families, foster parents, really any other adults who are involved in this child's life who might be able to provide some kind of insight to help them get towards permanency. Our CASA volunteers then take all the information they've collected, put it in a report, which then gets passed on to our family court judges, and then they have as much information as possible to make sound decisions on the placement of the children that we serve.
Awesome. And I have several friends who are CASA volunteers here in Hardin County in the Heartland, and then even over in Grayson County in Litchfield as well. How do you become a volunteer?
So if you're interested in becoming a CASA volunteer, the first step is to fill out a volunteer application, which can be found on our website at casaheartland.org. Once you fill out that application, it will send us a notification that, someone is interested. Our trainer and recruiter will reach out to them and schedule an interview. That interview process is just to kind of get to know the people that we might be bringing into these kiddos' lives. And then from there, we will enroll them in a training course, which usually takes about 6 weeks. In total, it ends up being about 30 hours of training. But some of that is independent work, homework in between sessions. But usually those courses are 2 hours a week for like a 6-week time span, and then kind of that homework in between. And then we will also do very extensive background checks on our volunteers just to make sure that they're safe and have the right intentions for working with these kiddos. And then once that training is completed, and background checks all come back clear, then we'll sit down with that new volunteer and talk about what kind of case they might be best suited for. If they prefer working with older children or younger children. I always use the example, like I taught middle school and high school. I have a little one at home, so, it would be really hard on me to work with little kids for personal reasons, but I feel really good about, building a relationship with older kids and advocating for their best interests and helping them, kind of figure out their plan for life. So I always use that example, like if I were a volunteer, that is something that I would want to share. And so we try to fit them with the best case possible based on our waiting list that we have, and then get them set up and started on a case. And we also have a small staff advocate coordinators and our trainer who work very diligently with our volunteers to make sure that they're supported. If they need someone to help them go on a home visit together, we typically send our advocate coordinators to the first home visit on a new case with that advocate no matter what. Yeah. And then they'll help them, with the court reports and everything, and just make sure that they have the support that they need, because we know that it's a difficult job for volunteering, for sure.
Well, absolutely. And I even imagine the first time that you're going in, once you've completed all of your hours of coursework, it can be kind of intimidating, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. I know I went through the training, and then I did actually take on a case as an advocate, just because I wanted to know what our advocates are experiencing. Yeah. And even someone who worked with kiddos for several years, it is very intimidating, and going in the courtroom can be a little nerve-wracking. Yeah. And so that's why it's nice, like we're kind of like a little family, but we want to make sure that our volunteers are supported, that we as team members support each other, because we know that it can be stressful. And then on top of that, the things that sometimes we encounter with what the children are dealing with. Yeah. And so we want to make sure that everybody has the support that they need, to share hardships of the case, or whether it's, I need you to look over this report for me to make sure that it's ready to be submitted. And our advocate coordinators always review those before we send them onto court as well. And so it's kind of, we're there every step of the way.
So the support from the staff is there for all of the volunteers regardless. So even if as a volunteer you are having a tough case and it is pulling at your heartstrings and it's just really difficult, as a volunteer you will have that amazing support from you and your staff.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So as a part of volunteers, do you need volunteers? Like, are you all needing some more volunteers?
Oh, absolutely. So in 2023, we announced that we were expanding into LaRue County.
Oh,
so
wow.
We accepted our first case in LaRue County in August. Mm-hmm. And so we are now serving both Hardin and LaRue County. Okay. We served 182 children in 2023, wow. But we still have 41 children on the wait list, which is our list of cases that CASA has been assigned to, but we don't currently have a volunteer to serve those children. Mm-hmm. And that is, people always say, how many volunteers do you need? But that list is, forever rotating. Yeah. We will get a couple children off of it, and then we'll get assigned to a new case. I did look, though, at I know we're expecting some pretty hefty population growth here in Hardin County and the surrounding counties in the next few years. And so I looked at kind of our average volunteer numbers versus children served and how many and just kind of crunched some numbers. And, I think probably within the next year to 2 years, like we really need about 20 more people, and then kind of trending towards, getting another 10 to 15 every year after that. But if we could recruit and train 20 to 30 more people in 2024, I would feel really good about us, being able to kind of get rid of that wait list and be able to have people ready to assign to cases when we get appointed to them, so that way we don't have children waiting for that advocate.
Yeah.
So we always need volunteers for sure.
Yeah. And even this year, you said that these are some of the lowest numbers that you've seen as far as having a wait list, because you've had so many volunteers come in. But like you said, as the population is going to be increasing, it's better now for us to build up those volunteers so that once the population is actively increasing, we have the volunteers ready for whenever people come in. Yes, because absolutely. We know that this increase is going to be pretty substantial. Yes. And how you feel like that's going to affect CASA?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think, anytime we're dealing with an increase in people, that also means an increase in children. Mm-hmm. And, unfortunately, sometimes that usually also means an increase in neglect and abuse. And so as more people come to, Hardin County and surrounding counties, we do anticipate that the court cases will increase, which will definitely increase the number of cases that we're assigned to. And so our need for volunteers is pretty high right now.
Yeah. So with that need for volunteers, you talked a little bit about the process for becoming a volunteer. Can you reiterate that, and where do you go? Can you go to a CASA office? Do you go online? Where's the best place to become a volunteer?
So really, any of those are great options. Our office is located at 580 Westport Road. We're on the backside of the health department. So, if someone is kind of like, oh, I think I might be good at this, but I'm not sure, and you just want to sit down and talk to our staff and, find out a little bit more about what we do, what those interactions are like. We might be able to share some experiences that other volunteers have encountered that, that have been positive experiences to just make people feel more comfortable about what volunteering is like. So we're always open to chat with people about that. But if you are, pretty adamant, that like, what, I think this is something I'd like to do, go to casaheartland.org, and up in the top right-hand corner, there's a red button that says volunteer. Press that, and then that'll take you to our volunteer application. And the other thing is that some people, I think, get discouraged. They're like, ooh, I don't know. That application, that's all it is an application of a, hey, I'm interested.
Yeah.
So, we have a whole process after that where we really get to know people to determine if it's going to be a good fit. And so, don't think that you're signing yourself up to advocate right away if you fill out that application. It gives you a ton of opportunities to ask questions and to learn more about our program. But it is a really great organization. And our volunteers spend around 5 to 10 hours a month, I would say, in their advocacy efforts, meeting with the children. And those numbers can vary depending on the case, but that's kind of what our volunteers have reported back. So the time commitment, I think, is also not as extensive as some people think. But yeah, for anybody who's interested in volunteering, you can stop by our office, call our office at 270-982-2274. Swing by or fill out that application online, and then we will get in touch with them.
Perfect. And why is it so important for us to have these CASA volunteers for these kids?
So one of our board members has used this quote by Frederick Douglass, and it's that it's far easier to build strong children than repair broken men. And that always, really, really touches me because, these children are our future.
Yes.
They're our future in Hardin County, surrounding counties, in our country, and we want to make sure that we are, building up strong individuals. Kentucky has had, a history of being in the top states for abuse and neglect cases, and, I don't know anybody who doesn't want that to change, that doesn't want our community to continually strengthen and get better. And so that's why I think it's so important for, there to be someone to advocate for these children. And on top of that, with those large numbers of abuse and neglect cases, we consistently have large turnover rates with our social workers and things like that. And so CASA, we really do pride ourselves on being the one consistent adult sometimes in these children's lives, because they might, move various foster homes and have different social workers. And sometimes that CASA volunteer is the one person there that's saying, like, you know what, we're in this together. Like, I'm here for you. And, to help them be able to remain strong throughout their circumstances and, help them get the resources that they need so that way they can, go on to be a strong and well-rounded adult.
Yeah. That person is in their corner, and it allows the kids to know that if out of everybody in this intimidating space, there's someone in their corner. Yes. Rooting for them and loving them and supporting them.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about in the courtroom. Once they walk in, what does it look like as an advocate? What are they doing in there? What's their space?
So our advocates are sworn in through the courts. They're sworn in as a friend of the court. And we typically, all of our CASA staff members, advocates who might be there for the day, sit in the jury box.
Okay.
And then whenever their case is called, the advocate coordinator, our staff member, and the advocate will go sit with the attorneys, and if the kid is present, they'll sit with the kiddo. And if the judge has questions for them, like, sometimes our judges, they want to know because they want to be able to do what's best for these children. And so sometimes they'll ask CASA, like, well, what does the CASA volunteer think about this? Or, do you think that this is going to be detrimental to this child? Or is this, would you be in support of this if we move forward with this? And some of our volunteers have had to testify as well. And usually we know in advance about those things, so we can kind of help prep them and things like that. But once you're in there, like I said, it's a good support system. I think we've worked really hard to have a good relationship with our social workers, with the attorneys, with our judges. And so I think that our CASA volunteers have said that they really do feel valued when they go into the courtroom. Good. And that first time is a little scary.
Yeah.
I remember like my first day as executive director, I think I went a few days in to go get sworn in, and I was like, I've never really been in a courtroom before. This is kind of scary.
This is wild.
But our CASA volunteers are very valued. Their opinions are valued, and I think once they get in and start working that case and get that first report under their belt, they realize that what they're doing is really making a difference for our judges to be able to make these decisions and have all the information they need to do so that way we can get these kiddos in the best circumstance possible.
Yeah. So these kids feel like they have a voice in the court, regardless of their age and of their nerve level while they're walking into that intimidating space. They have somebody who's going to speak up for them, even if they're scared to say anything. They've got somebody who is there to support and love and to be that grown-up that they know they can lean on.
Absolutely. And one of the things, too, that I like to point out is that when our CASA volunteers do the court reports, there is a section in there where they put what the child's wishes are, because we feel that's important. We are the voice for them in the courtroom, and we want to make sure that that their voice is heard. And so they're able to really build relationships with these children and advocate for them, and like you said, make sure that their voice and their wishes are heard in the courtroom as well.
So what is the commitment like for these CASA volunteers from day one, the day that they get their assignment for who their kiddo is and what the issue is that they're going to be advocating? Take us through that process and what the commitment looks like from day one.
So that very first day when we get a volunteer assigned to a case, it's some paperwork. But then after that, the next step is to set up that very first visit with that child. And like I said, usually our advocate and then also one of our staff members will go together, just because we're having new people going into someone's home, and that first visit's got a little bit of paperwork and stuff. So we try to make sure that our advocates are supported, and also because circumstances might be different than the information that we've been given, and we just want to make sure it's always good to maintain buddy system on that first visit.
Of course.
And then after that, the minimum requirement for our CASA volunteers is to visit the child or the children that they are assigned to at least once a month. And so most of our advocates, I think, kind of typically will go for like an hour-long visit once a month. And then outside of that, we typically have court every 3 to 6 months. So our volunteers usually do a report about every 3 months, and then they might have to come to court around usually twice a year. And so, those in-between times, it's kind of at their leisure to collect information. And every case is a little different. Sometimes there are, a long list of parties involved that, volunteers might want to reach out to and collect information from. Sometimes it's a lot less substantial of a list, and our volunteers are just going to one place to visit a child who might be placed with their natural parents, and they just need a little extra support and resources and extra eyes and ears for that kiddo. So I would say the commitment level really does vary, but we do try to keep those things in mind. We have several advocates who work full-time and are able to volunteer. We also have several advocates who are retired and are really passionate about volunteering, and they might take on more than one case. So that commitment, I think, like I said, bare minimum is visiting that child once a month, making sure that they're being taken care of wherever they're placed, and being able to report that information back to the court. And then beyond that, it's kind of like, the above and beyond of getting in touch with any other parties involved to just collect more information to provide back to the judge.
Awesome. So whenever you're given your first assignment, or any assignment, are you then with that kiddo until they age out of CASA? Or is it just for that court case? How does that work? Or you continue to be paired with them so they have that comfort level consistency throughout their time?
So that really varies with the case also, but when our advocates first come on, we try to, tell them like, hey, we really want you to be committed to being a CASA volunteer for at least 24 months because that's the average length of a case.
Okay.
Now, unfortunately, we do have some cases that we've had an advocate on for 7 or 8 years, and we've had some close in a couple of months.
Yeah.
But usually our volunteers, unless they no longer wish to continue volunteering, will remain with that child until that case closes in the court or until that child either turns 18 and they no longer wish to remain committed to the cabinet, or if they do wish to remain committed, then our volunteers might serve them all the way through age 21. And we do have some cases like that we've served on before where, we have volunteers who are working with young adults and making sure that they have everything they need and are on a good path to be able to provide for themselves and things like that. So yeah, we serve children from birth all the way through age 21.
So I feel like a lot that I'm hearing is that there is a consistency of support. So there is support for the volunteers from the staff at CASA, and then those volunteers are supporting those kiddos right there in the nitty-gritty of it all.
Absolutely.
So I feel like that is where we know our underlying important factor is that there is support on both sides to make sure that everyone feels ready and prepared and loved.
Oh, yes.
And I think that is just the heart of CASA, is the love and care for kids that just may not see that daily and may not know that. And I think that that's where those volunteers get to step in and show the support and the consistency and the love.
Absolutely.
So as a volunteer, again, can you please repeat for us exactly where to go? Because I know after today, we're going to have an influx of volunteers.
I hope so. I hope so.
Where can we go?
Go to casaheartland.org. Top right-hand corner, there's a button that says volunteer. Just click that, fill out that application, or swing by our office at 580 Westport Road, or call our office at 270-982-2274.
Perfect. Michelle, thank you so much for the time that we've gotten to spend together. Thank you for sharing this information with me and information with all of our Hardin County residents on how important CASA is to our community and to our kids, and how to become a volunteer to support and love our kids.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Thank you all again for joining us for Issues and Insights here with HCEC-TV. We'll see you again soon.